All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 2 o'clock. We got a nice looking group here, or at least a nice group. I don't know about the looks. And I've gone ahead and muted you all. But first, I lurked in the background and listened to your conversation, and I'm more scared about you than I've ever been. So we're going to get rolling here. It's great to not see, but at least be with you guys here. And as you will see, there is a chat function on this little thing. So if you have an opportunity to need a question answered or just want to make a comment, that's a good place to do it. And we will have some opportunities for me to unmute you, but I will silence the people, and that's the way it's going to be. So, you know, it's all good. So I hope everybody is well. I hope they're healthy. I hope your family is healthy. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to try to let a few more people get on. We're having some folks with some technical trouble that I'm trying to help. So what I would like to do is let me know, just give me a quick yes if you can see my screen where it says APUSH while we're waiting to begin. Awesome. That's what I would like you guys to go ahead and just really get started with. Okay, real quick. So just take a look at that. We'll do a quick little HIPP. Take a look at this little quote. I think you will find it to be an appropriate quote for what we're dealing with right now. And you can either write it down or just get some idea. And we'll go through this in just a sec once we get a few more folks joining us. Thank you. All right, guys. So we're going to get started here. I've got a couple of questions about technology, about this particular little tool here. And this is the first time I've ever used it, so I don't know about like camera settings and stuff like that. I'm not going to be using one. You guys know what I look like, and it's too close after lunch for you guys to have to see an up close and version of my face. But if you have a camera and you can turn it on, I think you can kind of sort of look at each other if that's of interest to you. Obviously, we're going to focus on what's going on the screen. And let's just start off with, in little chat, let's go ahead and help me out with the first part of this HIPP. So what would be the historical context that we're talking about here? All right. Yes, indeed. A war, a particular, there it is. Thank you, Rachel. The Revolutionary War. Thomas Paine, one of the people that was a huge supporter of the colonies, the revolutionaries trying to become our own country, wrote a pamphlet called The Crisis to try to get people fired up. So the time frame is the Revolutionary War for sure. So who's the intended audience? Who was he writing to, do we think? Alex, the favorite, goes with Merca. Okay, can we get a little bit more? I like that. The colonists, yes. Right. Okay, so these are the folks that are looking to become independent. All right. So obviously we have a lot of loyalists that are in the colonies at this point. This is somebody who is looking for those folks that are wanting to fight the British. Good job. Okay. How about the purpose? What's the purpose? Somebody already wrote it, kind of fire them up. And that is correct. So to really get people excited about this, and what he's writing about here is that it's really easy to be the summer soldier, to be the person that is a patriot when it's easy to be a patriot, but what tries men's souls is if you can actually work your way all the way through to the end when times get tough. And I thought this would be an appropriate quote for the interesting bit of history that we're living through right now. Okay, so good job. This is also going to be really important. I'm going to talk about a little bit of the change of the AP test, and we're going to be doing a full pivot and going back and doing a lot of the old stuff that we haven't touched on for a little while, because it looks like that's going to be the primary thing you guys are going to be tested on. But I'll talk about that in just a minute. So the goal for today, besides hanging out with you guys for a little bit, is twofold. The first thing is I want to walk you through the changes for the AP exam, what's going to be happening there. It still is going to be happening, but it's going to be a lot different. And then the second thing is I want to walk through a little bit about World War II, which is the unit that we should be working on and trying to finish up right now, okay? So again, if you have questions as I'm going, feel free to drop something in the group chat. I will have an opportunity to unmute you a little bit later, and you can ask questions with your mics if you have that too, okay? So we're gonna get started. Here's my motivational speech right here. So give me a quick little yes just to make sure that this is working. You can see these pictures of these two cute dogs. Awesome. Okay. So these are my dogs. This is Hazel on the left, Hank on the right. And this is just a way for me to let you guys think about maybe a little bit different perspective as to what's going on right now. I heard a little bit of talk about how boring it is to be sitting at home and stuff like that. Alex, of course, enjoys it. No shocker there. And essentially what we're doing is I want you to think like my two dogs. They are loving this because they get to see their mommy and daddy every day. They get to go on walks and hikes every single day. They are loving life. So to them, this is like the best opportunity ever. So if there's a way that you can kind of tweak your thinking a little bit, take an opportunity to kind of work on some stuff that you can do from home, be nice to the people around you, maybe even do a little bit of AP US history. That'd be a shocker. It'd be a wonderful thing to do. Okay. And you essentially what we want to do is we want to channel our inner Hazel and Hank. That's our goal. Okay, cool. Moving on. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening with AP. Some of you guys may have gotten a survey from AP asking if you wanted to continue to take the test. I don't know. They sent it out to like 200,000 students around the country or something like that. But essentially, it is going on. And it's going on as follows. The first thing is it's going to be online. So the idea of putting you guys in a room 3 feet away from each other and asking you to take a 3.5-hour test didn't seem real smart under the current situation and of social distancing. And so they're not going to do that. They're going to make this thing online only. You can do it a number of different ways. You're going to be able to access and take this test, the new AP test. And this is for all your tests, by the way, not just AP US History. I know a lot of you guys are in a lot of AP classes. This is going to hold through for all of your AP classes. You can take it on a computer, on a tablet, smartphone. You can even take a photo of your handwritten work and send it to them in some fashion, okay? Now I'm going to walk through this stuff. I got this information on Saturday. It's changing almost daily in terms of what's happening with this particular exam. So, you know, this is not necessarily gospel. Don't hold me to this, but this is the deal for right now. So let's talk a little bit about the format. So it is going to be, ready for this, 45 minutes, 45-minute test, okay? So instead of 3.5 hours of US history, of calculus, of stats, of fill in the blank, it is going to be a 45-minute exam. And it's going to be a free response exam. So it's going to be one that you can take from home, and there's going to be no multiple choice, only free response, okay? And what that means essentially is it's going to be open reading. Yeah, it is going to be easy. I think it's going to be easier anyway. I mean, they've got some plans on what they're going to do to make it a little bit of a challenge, but essentially I think it's going to be a lot easier for you guys. You better not cheat. Pasta boy number one. Don't you even think about it. So let's go through it real quickly. So 45-minute free response exams. I'm thinking in our class, it's going to be a lot like the short answer kind of questions. So the SAQs as opposed to the LEQs or the DBQs. I think that's going to be the basic format that we will see. What that looks like in your other classes, I don't know. Your teachers will probably talk to you about that. Colleges are still committed to giving you guys credit for this thing. There's going to be 2 testing dates. One is going to be in May. One is going to be, they just say later. We don't know exactly what that means. We don't know exactly if the date in May is going to be one that they already planned on or what. And it's going to be testing specifically on what we have already done. So the first 75% of the class. So for our class, all you guys have to know is through World War II. So right where we are, it worked out really nicely. All you have to do is know up to 1945. You do not have to know anything past that point. So pretty much colonization through World War II, that's what you're going to be held accountable for. Okay. Let me see a couple other things here. So this is the section where they start to talk a little bit about trying to make sure that you don't cheat, like Alex is already planning. And that is that they are going to be asking questions that are going to measure skills, it says, that can't be learned from Google or chats with friends. My bet is that they're going to have a number of questions that they'll be random, that you'll get something that probably your friend doesn't have, and it's going to be something that you can't just copy and paste from Google in order to really properly answer. Okay. So for us, that's the wrong page. There's the page. For us, as you can see, U.S. history, it's just units 1 through 7. So we're finishing up unit 7 right now. We will not have to worry about units 8 and 9. So I know many of you were busily working on a couple of units that I just posted, and I've turned those off because we're not doing the Cold War. We're not doing Vietnam. We're not doing any of that stuff, which is a real bummer because that's like my favorite stuff in U.S. history. And we've powered through all kinds of industrialization and stuff, and we've finally gotten to the good stuff, but oh well, we'll deal with it. Okay. Now you do have an opportunity to cancel, but it would be really stupid to do so, in my estimation, for a couple of reasons. One is that we paid for it. So Odyssey picked up the tab, so you're not out any money. Doesn't really help you. To get a cancellation, that money will just come back to Odyssey. And I really think that this is going to be a significantly easier test than what a normal test would be. So if you said, you know what, I'm not going to take it, I'll take it next year or whatever, I think you really lose out on an opportunity here. Okay, there's going to be no multiple choice. There's going to be no DBQ. There's probably not going to be an LEQ. It's just going to be short stuff. And my bet is that you definitely want to take advantage of this if you can. Okay. Like I said, colleges are supporting this, so we believe that your scores will still count towards college credit. If you still get that 3, 4, or 5, they recognize that this is kind of a weird situation and they need to be kind of helpful on that. Okay, exam security. Okay, this is the section that's trying to figure out how to make sure that pasta boy number 1 does not cheat on his exam. And it says again that it's not going to be those skills that can be learned from Google. One of the things that they're going to use, you can see here in bold, the range of digital security tools and techniques, plagiarism detection software. I don't know what all that stuff is, but I essentially think what they're going to do is they're going to wash anything that you submit through a number of different plagiarism type things, just to make sure that it's your words. It's not something that you've either copied from online or copied from somebody else who submitted something. So obviously you only have 45 minutes. There's not going to be an awful lot of time to do external research. You're going to have to kind of know this stuff. And I think that's why they've made it such a short test. All right. Let's see what else we got. Okay. One of the things they're going to be doing, and I've been sending you guys some emails on this, is provide some review lessons, some free review lessons. So in addition to our weekly get-togethers where we're talking about stuff, there'll be some online stuff that you can do as well. One of them was a course from Tom Ritchie. I sent that to you guys yesterday. That's really good. Okay, that's not connected with the AP program. It's something outside of that, but it would be a really good thing to do. And I know that there is a some sort of a limit on the number of people that can take it. So if you have an opportunity or want to get some extra review, please work on that. Okay. And they'll also have this stuff recorded as well, so that you can, if you don't have an opportunity to get to it at the time that it actually comes out live, you can always look at the on recorded options. All right. And there's geography, so you don't care about that, but here's U.S. history. Here's some of the examples. Now, the topics are incorrect because we're going to be obviously going back through units 1 through 7. We're not worried about lesson 8, but this will give you an idea of what we're talking about. So you can see that we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week, that there's going to be some sessions, and I will send that out a little bit more, okay, after the session today. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what the plan is. What are we going to be doing? This is what your life is going to look like from now until either we take the test or we get back to normal and are back for our Wednesday classes. And that is, you're going to have weekly assignments in Moodle, like we've always done. Those are going to be due Sunday now instead of Wednesdays. So you've got the whole week to work on those. Most of that is going to be within Moodle as opposed to like a packet or stuff. Matter of fact, the last packet is the one you guys are working on right now. There will be no more after that. I don't know if Crew is on here, but if he is, he's probably crying with, there it is. There's the happiness. So that's what you need to know. However, if you have some paper-based assignments like the World War II packet or any that you might be missing, you can always email a photo of each page to me. You can scan and email it, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you have opportunities to send it to me. However you can get it to me, that will be great. We will continue on with grades as usual. So those dates, as soon as those dates hit, things will come due. Those points will go into the grade book and they'll start to count against you. So please make sure you're keeping up on your grades in this class and other classes too. We'll be doing a weekly test-based quiz of some type each Tuesday. So after we get done with our session, I will open up a quiz for you guys to work on. It'll be due at midnight, essentially on Tuesdays. Because this is our first one, I'll give you guys a little leeway for today, but you need to get that done. Most of that is going to be tried to be tied to things that you could be, that'll come on the test. So we'll get that going. And then we'll have our weekly web meeting, what we're doing right now. What I'm going to do is please note that we're going to do a change. And this is because we have a couple of people that 2 o'clock is not a great time for. So we're going to do Tuesdays at 1:30. Okay. Tuesdays at 1:30. All right. So, and then the last thing I've got for you is make sure that you're please reading your emails and your messages. It's the only way I can really get that information out to you on a daily basis. And so it's really important that you're keeping track of that. Okay. Any questions about any of that? Okay, so a couple of questions. How long will the weekly webinars be? For the ones that I'm doing, they'll be somewhere between like 45 minutes and an hour probably. And for the ones that AP is doing, I'm not sure. We'll have to see how that goes. Okay, this one will be about 45 minutes. Do I miss you? Of course I miss you. Absolutely I miss you. I even miss Alex. You know which Alex I'm talking about here too. Yep, I do. I would much rather be back at school. But there it is. We're going to make the best out of what we've got. Okay. So any other comments on kind of what's happening with AP? All right. So we are going to, nope, we're going to go right there. We're going to, okay, I'm looking at, there's a few more questions here. Most of them are absolutely inappropriate, so I'm not going to go there. Is prom going to be rescheduled? I have no clue. I would assume that there's probably no hope at this point. I think at this point, if we can actually have graduation, I think we're probably lucky, but we'll see. The goal right now, just so you know, is that the district is telling us that they think they're going to be going back on the 16th of April. And so we would too, Odyssey would too. I don't think that's really going to happen, but we'll see. If everything clears up and all's well, then we'll do that. And probably then we would take the normal test. I think it's probably going to drag on a little bit longer than that, but we'll see. Okay. All right. So moving on, let me talk a little bit about what our topic is for today. This would be a good time for you either to take some notes or screenshot some of this stuff because it's really dealing with a pretty important concept that you guys need to know, which is really the connection between the World War I and World War II. So somebody help me out here with, and just go ahead and type in a couple things into the chat about what was happening at the end of World War I. How did we leave the world at the end of World War I? Who won? Who lost? What was going on? Okay, yep, the Allies won, in fact. And who are the Allies? France, US, and Britain. Absolutely. Good job. I don't know what the yeet is, but Germany did indeed lose. That's right. And so essentially at the end of this thing, the Allies, who were very upset with Germany, wanted to punish them through the Treaty of Versailles and pretty much took Germany down. And so that's kind of where we ended. Obviously, there was a huge amount of destruction and devastation in Europe. The U.S. lost tens of thousands of people, but obviously skated away relatively unscathed. And off we go into ultimately the Great Depression. And then that's the last thing that we talked about. And now we're getting ourselves back into the next conflict. Okay. And so really this time frame between about 1931 to 1941 is the time frame that I want to talk about today. And so how did we get from that end of World War I to the beginning of World War II? Okay. So the first thing that happens is we start to see, because there's this vacuum, because in Europe right now, we have all this devastation. We have the end of all these kingdoms and all these empires and stuff like that that have crumbled at the end of this thing. We now have a rise of dictators. We have strong, in this case, men that step in and essentially assume power. The first one is Benito Mussolini, who's here in this picture on the right-hand side with the fancy-looking hat. And he is a fascist from Italy. In Spain, we also have a fascist government. And there you go, Pasta Boys, there it is. And in Germany, obviously, we have the rise of Nazism with Adolf Hitler on the left. As we saw at the end of World War I, we had Russia essentially getting rid of its czar and becoming a communist country. And then in Japan, we really haven't talked much about Japan, but over in Japan, we have a group of militarists, so generals that essentially are running the show over there in Japan. And they have really started to amp up the production of weapons and things like that. So this is the 1930s. During this time frame, we're really seeing a lot of rise of some pretty ugly stuff when it comes to leaders in Europe at this time, okay? America at this time decides to retreat back to neutrality. We got involved in the end of World War I. We had a lot of people that died. When we all came back, we talked a little bit about things got kind of ugly if you happen to be, we had this nativism that popped up again that we've discussed. And so the United States essentially goes back to an idea of being neutral and isolationist. So again, we can kind of see what's happening in Europe at the time, starting to kind of boil a little bit. We don't want to be part of the same mistake twice. That's kind of where we're at. The Nye Commission, which is actually named after, we have a county just to the north of us, Nye County here in Nevada, named after this particular senator, investigates how we got involved in World War I. And then the Congress passes some neutrality acts, which essentially prohibit the sale of any kind of arms to nations that are currently at war. So the idea is we don't want to get involved. So if they're going to have another war, it looks like it's going to get ugly in Europe again, we don't want to be part of it. Okay, so there's a couple things that happen as we are getting ready to get into World War II. The first is it's kind of like the dress rehearsal, if you want to think of it that way, for World War II, and that's the Spanish Civil War. So in 1936, the fascist leader of Spain, General Franco, he's the one who starts the Civil War and is destroying kind of the nationalists there, and starts to bring in a lot of technology that we haven't seen before. A lot of it is imported from Germany, who's starting to develop this stuff. And so it's really kind of a test run for a lot of stuff we're going to see in World War II on a small scale. We also see the development of a new alliance. We saw in World War I how wonderful alliances were for things to go in World War I. And so we now are going down that road again. And we have what's called the Axis alliance. So the Axis are the countries of Germany, Italy, and Japan all getting together and starting to think a little bit about world domination. But we also have a president who comes in 1932, President Roosevelt, who is not an isolationist. And he actually does think that the best way that you can prevent a war is by trade. So economics, tying countries together via trade, could potentially prevent a war. And so he starts something, instead of isolationism, he starts internationalism. As things move on, though, it becomes pretty apparent that the forces of fascism and Nazism in Europe are becoming more and more powerful. And Adolf Hitler specifically starts to kind of move out from beyond the borders at the end of World War I of Germany. He's starting to take over some land. And the very first place he takes over, he is, by the way, Adolf Hitler is Austrian. So even though we think of him associated with the country of Germany, he was actually born in Austria. And so he wants to take over Austria as part of Greater Germany. And that's called the Anschluss. And while he does this, he also annexes Czechoslovakia. He takes over a little piece of France called Alsace-Lorraine. And all the while, the democratic governments in Europe are kind of watching and trying to figure out what to do. So specifically the French and the British. And we have one of the most famous things that happens during this time frame is called Peace Within Our Time, and it's called appeasement. And that is where Neville Chamberlain, who's the Prime Minister of Britain, essentially says to Hitler, okay, you can take what you've got, but after this point, you got to stop. You can't have anything more. So rather than essentially telling him no, he kind of says, all right, we'll kind of look the other way. And that really gives Hitler what he thinks is the go-ahead to keep moving and taking over more land. He also puts together a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union. So this would be Joseph Stalin is the leader in the Soviet Union at this time. And in 1939, he essentially has a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union. And that's really important if you look at a map. Matter of fact, let's look at a map really quickly right now. So I'd like you to take a look at where Germany is, take a look at where the Soviet Union is, take a look at where France and the UK are, and why would it be really important for Germany to have an arrangement with the Soviet Union not to fight each other? What would be the kind of the plan for that? Why would that be a good thing? Pasta boy on it. Absolutely. That is the correct answer. Actually, there's a couple of correct answers. Yeah, what we don't want to do if you're Germany is if you know that your next kind of place you're going to go is into France and eventually into the UK, what you don't want to do is then have to fight a two-front war. You don't want to be fighting the Soviets on your east coast or east border and then the other countries on your west. So that's one of the big thing. And then, of course, the other reason is the Soviets have lots and lots of people. So it would be a huge enemy to have, and they're trying to avoid that. Okay. So as soon as he gets that kind of agreement with the Soviet Union, he decides it's time to move. And in 1939, invades Poland. The UK and France had an arrangement with Poland. This is sounding a lot like World War I all over again because it is. And they essentially say that, okay, Germany, if you invade Poland, we're going to declare war on you. So Germany does. They declare on war on Germany, and we're off and running into World War II. France, Belgium, and the Netherlands fall in quick order. The German army is incredibly powerful and just runs through Western Europe pretty quickly. The British are actually pushed back to the beaches at Dunkirk. And if you've seen the movie Dunkirk, which if you've not, you should, it's really quite good. It'll kind of show you what it looks like in 1940 to be a British soldier with your back against the English Channel. It's pretty awful. But they do get out. The British are able to retreat back to their island. And then the Germans start an air war called the Battle of Britain, where they're trying to essentially bomb the UK into submission. Okay. Once Germany's kind of taken over the Western Front, Hitler decides, you know what, I've got this kind of locked down, and I'm going to violate this pact that I had with the Soviet Union. I'm going to go ahead and attack the Soviet Union. So he does, again, with very, very good success, as you can see from this map. That the Germany moves really quickly all the way almost to Moscow. But we're going to see that actually is going to turn here in a little bit. But now he's got himself a two-front war because he's got the UK is still not pacified. The Germans haven't taken it over yet. He does control France, but he's still got a battle to fight on the west, and now he's got a big battle to fight on the east. And that ultimately, spoiler alert, is going to be his undoing. Okay. During this time frame, the German government is not only just preparing for war, but they're also preparing to make their culture a perfect Aryan nation. And to do that, they believe that they have to rid Germany of undesirables, is what they would use. And so the part of the Nazi ideology is we want to get rid of these people. And more importantly, we really want to blame these people. So we can blame the group of these persecuted groups that you see on the screen here for all the problems of Germany after World War I, all the problems of Germany going into World War II. And so now that we've got power back, we're going to take some revenge. And so if you happen to be a Jew within not only Greater Germany, but now the areas that they have taken over, or a Slav, or a disabled person, or a gypsy, or a homosexual, you are under the gun to begin this cleansing, which ultimately we will call the Holocaust. The German high command gets together and creates something called the Nuremberg laws, which essentially talk about what taking away rights for this group of people in these persecuted groups. So no longer can Jews have businesses. They can't marry non-Jews. They can't live in areas that aren't ghettos with only Jews, things like that. So their rights are being absolutely kind of taken away piece by piece. Many Jews try to leave. Some are able to leave, either flee to the United States or to other countries that are outside of the kind of the German grasp at this point, but a lot are unable to do that. And ultimately they are rounded up after the German leaders have started something called the Final Solution. So they have a conference in a town called Wannsee, which is in Germany, in 1942, where they talk about what are we going to do with the Jews within the area that we now control. And essentially what they say is we're going to create these camps, and we've all heard of them, concentration camps. Here's a picture of some Jews at Sachsenhausen, which is in Germany. A couple of summers ago, I was able to go to Auschwitz, which is as about a powerful thing as you'll ever see. At first, these are concentration camps, a place to put people that are undesirables outside of, away from the Aryan Germans, but pretty quickly they become extermination camps. The Germans also use mobile extermination units so that they can literally trail behind the army, and as the army takes over a new town, this extermination unit comes behind it and kills the people that are in one of those groups. So it's about as awful as you can get and still be humanity. There's no question about it. Jews do uprise, and so there's a number of different opportunities for them to have uprisings in Poland especially. And those are usually because obviously they're going up against probably the most powerful army in the world at the time. They are usually put down brutally, and they don't usually lead to much, unfortunately. So when this is all said and done, at the end of the Holocaust, we have over 6 million Jews that have died at the hands of the Germans. So at the same time, we've still got America out there who has not declared war on anybody, trying to sort of be independent, wanting to try to help the British and the French, but not get into this thing, a lot like World War I, where we just kind of vacillated for a long time. And while FDR does support the Allies, just like in World War I, remember we have lots of German people from Germany that live in the United States. And so this neutrality, there's another neutrality act that comes into play in 1939 to try to keep us out. There's a big group called the America First Committee that debate and push really hard for the United States to stay out of any kind of war. But then we have the election of 1940, and it's essentially kind of a referendum on who's going to either lead us into or keep us out of a war. FDR wins in a landslide, and essentially that pretty much moves us towards ultimately we're going to get involved in this war. It just becomes a matter of when. One of the things that's really important at this time frame too is something called the Lend-Lease Act, and that's an act that was passed by Congress that essentially said that we can send weapons to the Allies, who essentially will rent them. So we can, because obviously we have the technology, the capacity, the industrial might in the United States, and we're not being bombed by the Germans because we have an ocean in between. We can create a number of different weapons, and we can send them to the Allies, who essentially would rent them and ultimately return them. So this is one of the ways that we're not giving them to them. We're just essentially renting it to them. So you can get around some of these neutrality acts. But ultimately, in 1941, on December 7th, the United States pushed into the war because of the attack on Pearl Harbor. So Japan, in what most people think of as was a surprise attack, but the reality is that we knew something was coming. We just didn't know exactly where this was going to occur. Attacked our base, our naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. About 2,400 Americans were killed in this. And it was the largest loss of life on American soil since the Civil War and until September 11th. Okay, so the more Americans died on American soil since the Civil War and until September 11th on Pearl Harbor. Obviously, America, after being attacked, we declare war on Japan because Japan and Germany are in the Axis Treaty. Germany then declares war on the United States. And within the matter of a day, the United States goes from being neutral to essentially having a two-front war of its own to fight. We've got the Germans in Europe, and we've got the Japanese in the Pacific. So that's kind of a lead up, kind of a run up to what was happening with during the time frame as we're going into the war. That'll get you kind of caught up with what I need you to do for this next unit. And what I want to show you is a little bit from the website, and then I'm going to unmute you guys and let you actually speak for a minute. You're doing a nice job. Thank you very much. So a couple of things that I want to show you on the website. Okay, so there's our good old website. If you scroll down underneath the little attendance quizzes, I've added a new exam prep section. Okay, and this is going to be a place where I'm going to kind of add stuff for you guys to start working on getting ready for the test specifically. All right, so if you click on that, what you will see is a lot of stuff. Okay, the first, this notice up here, if you click on that particular link, you're going to see information from the AP about what's happening with the coronavirus and how the tests are being affected. So what we just talked about, if it changes, it'll be here. So you might just check this once in a while. Okay. And then it's got kind of a, how are you going to create a study plan, a little bit of information about the test itself, and then some written study guides, some video study guides, some resources, and some practice exams. Okay. So I would really recommend that you start to go through this sooner rather than later and put together a plan that will get you to the point of feeling really comfortable with those periods 1 through 7. Starting next week, what we're going to do this week, again, we're kind of finishing up the material through Unit 7, which is World War II. Once we finish with that, we're going to go back and start with period 1 and 2 and start to review some stuff. All right, so it's going to be things that we've talked about, but it was first semester stuff, and you guys, if you were even paying attention at all, you've forgotten long ago. So we're going to make sure that we get that kind of back to the frontal lobe. Okay. So that is our plan. The last thing that I want to show you on the website is that I've opened up an assignment. Remember I told you you're going to be having not only this little lecture, but also you're going to be having an assignment, kind of like we would have if you guys were in Wednesday class with me. And our first one is going to be under lesson 9. And it's this bottom link right here. Did World War I lead to World War II? It's going to have a little activity. It's due today. Okay. So if you can't get it done today, I understand. We'll let you roll into tomorrow. But by today or tomorrow, please take care of that. So that'd be like the writing assignment that you would do in class. Okay? Any questions about that? Okay, so I have unmuted you at this point. Let's try not to have total chaos. But does anybody have anything? Raise your little hand. And if you have any questions, I don't know how you do that because I'm not seeing this. Ooh, iPhone has a question. Go ahead, iPhone.
Oh no, someone's echoing.
Bonk. Bonk.
Anybody else have any questions about what I just went over?
Can someone fix that?
Oh yeah.
That's painful.
I hated that. Thanks. I hate it.
Kenji, what do you mean?
Huh?
Come here.
Minecraft
You already have a
server!
Minecraft server
yeah.
up?
Oh my god.
What?
All right, so I won't make that mistake again. Minecraft servers up. That sounds like the most important information we've gotten. Any other questions for me? Please go ahead and put something in the group chat if you do. Other than that, we will do this again. It will be next week. It will be at 1:30. It is required. I'm going to give you guys copious amounts of points just for coming and showing up, and I appreciate that very much. And other than that, I want you to be safe, be happy. I won't close it quite yet, and be good humans. Okay. Any other questions for me? All right. Thanks a lot, guys.